Well, good afternoon. How you all doing out there? Good afternoon. I can see who the hardy folks are that's still sticking with us. General Sullivan, I just want to, first of all, say thank you for the introduction and also for what you and AUSA does for our soldiers and for our families. And also to say that everybody in this room knows that you don't have to do what you do, but you do it because of your love for soldiers and families. So I just want to say thank you. I also would like to take this opportunity to recognize our local community. We have Mayor Battle, Mayor Trulock that have been with us throughout the course of the symposium, and that's just reflective of the very supporting relationship that we have at Redstone with the folks here. This is truly, you know, a very special place, and I know everybody says that whenever they're talking on behalf of their installation, but I have to tell you, this is truly a special place. So I'm sure we'd love to see AUSA come back and visit us in the future. Today, it's truly an honor for me to represent the men and women of SMDC RSTRAT. You know, I realize it's kind of late in the afternoon, so I thought a short video would kind of get the juices flowing. So with that, please play the video. You know, quite frankly, after seeing General Vice's presentation yesterday, I thought I better take it up a notch. So I had to make sure I had a video here. Again, I appreciate the opportunity to discuss space and missile defense relevance, both today and also in future environments. You know, specifically, what are our national security challenges in space and in missile defense? What is our role? We're all aware of the state and non-state actors out there that are developing asymmetric and hybrid forms of warfare to counter our strengths. Yesterday, Lieutenant General Walker talked about anti-access and anti-denial environments that complicate our freedom of action, and continued proliferation of threat technologies, especially in space, missile defense, and cyber, further exacerbate the situation. Bottom line, in the space domain, we face challenges from many various states. Many near-peer competitors are also very interested in space, and I'd like to highlight China, for instance, that is very involved in a lot of these applications. Currently, there are 12 spacefaring nations. 3 more have been added since 2009, most notably Iran in 2009 and North Korea in 2012. As countries develop space programs, the domain will become increasingly competitive, congested, and contested. It is also important to note that our adversaries understand our reliance on space and aggressively engage in developing capabilities to counter our own capabilities, whether it's anti-satellite systems, SATCOM jammers, GPS jammers, and cyber tools that Lieutenant General Cardone mentioned this morning. In fact, U.S. dominance in space is being challenged. Many nations are developing technologies to disrupt our overhead persistent infrared and our communications platforms. Turning to ballistic missile threats, enemy systems are becoming more flexible, more mobile, more survivable, more reliable, and more accurate. Cruise missile technology is being transferred and proliferated. Unmanned aerial systems are being weaponized and used for surveillance. 75 nations are working on this technology, with also advancements in warheads and their accuracy. And survivability is being improved with underground facilities and road mobility, as we see in North Korea with the KN-08s and the Musadan missile systems. Most worrisome is the range these missiles are achieving, and now they're threatening the homeland. Many states, including Iran and North Korea, have ballistic missiles that have ranges that exceed over 1,000 kilometers. Today, 31 nations possess ballistic missiles, and 9 of these states, many of whom do not wish us well, possess or are suspected of possessing nuclear weapons. In fact, ballistic missiles is a weapon of choice for many of our adversaries. They're relatively low cost, especially when you compare that to maintaining a trained and ready Air Force. They have the potential to defeat defense systems. They also don't have to be close to have a strategic effect. And they're also used, quite frankly, to project national power and prestige. Today, more than ever before, the Army, the COCOM, and our nation relies on space and missile defense capabilities. I would submit that many of our commanders aren't necessarily worried too much about Iranian infantry and armor formations. But when you throw in 1,200 plus missile systems, that causes some concern. I'd also submit that you agree with me that these are no-fail missions. Warfighters are reliant on space more than ever before for communications, for position, navigation, positioning, for weather, for missile warning. And 60% of Army systems rely on space-enabled capabilities. Surprisingly, the Army is the principal customer in space. A lot of folks don't realize that. These capabilities, coupled with missile defense, provide protection of the homeland as well as freedom of action for forces throughout the world. And will do so even more in the future. You know, given this environment, it's important to note your Army has been involved in these crucial roles in space and missile defense for many, many years, through the early concept years to the current development and deployment of current systems that we have. Since 1957, year I was born, quite frankly, we've been involved in missile defense. Today's portfolio is focused on global and theater missile defense systems, as well as cruise missile and CRAM capabilities, as well as counter UAS. When you look at it from a prevent, shape, and win construct, our Army Air and Missile Defense Forces demonstrate our resolve and our support of deterrence objectives globally, whether it's in Japan, Guam, Korea, Europe, Israel, Turkey, throughout the CENTCOM AOR, we're there. We maintain a very, very close relationship with our allies and with our coalition partners to make sure that we shape and develop and mature joint and coalition kill chains. We use exercises like Nimble Titan, where we bring together our NATO partners and our GCC partners from the Middle East to come together in BMD exercises and to discuss very sensitive policy issues. AMD forces have shown their mettle in both Iraq and Afghanistan, whether it's used to defeat the CRAM threat that's there or Saddam's Scud missiles. Missile defense is a core Army mission. In fact, during Operation Iraqi Freedom, 41 of 50 Patriot batteries were deployed across 7 countries. The Army has forward deployed and forward stationed now 7 of the 15 Patriot battalions that we have. All 4 of our joint tactical ground station systems and 4, soon to be 5, TPY-2 forward base mode radars, and also the THAAD, as we all know, in Guam. Today, Space and Missile Defense Forces makes up 1.6% of the total Army. But we have seen, especially when you look at the Combatant Command's integrated priority list, they're in demand. Everybody wants more. The organization that I have the honor to serve with is uniquely organized, globally dispersed, and is focused basically on 3 core tasks: operations, capabilities development, and material development. We continue to provide trained and ready space and missile defense forces, as well as execute operations throughout the world. We're also meeting tomorrow's requirements in terms of capabilities. What does that structure look like? What do they need to have? And they're also focused on the day after tomorrow in terms of material development and promising technologies. In the space domain, our Space Brigade that's located in Colorado Springs supports the warfighter and many government agencies, many 3-letter agencies out there. They manage both the wideband and narrowband comms networks, SATCOM networks, and they support national-level leaders all the way down to the BCT. They also provide joint friendly force tracking capability to 500,000 plus assets, people, again, 3-letter agencies, soft forces, and they provide 1.5 million tracking reports every day. They also support STRATCOM in terms of space tracking and space situational awareness, making sure that we know what's up there flying. There's a lot of debris up there, and there's a lot of other platforms that are up there. So they play a critical role making sure that we keep an eye on what's up there. Turning to integrated air and missile defense, the 100th Missile Defense Brigade, also located in Colorado Springs, provides limited ICBM attack, defense against ICBM attack. Defending the homeland is the #1 priority. The #1 priority. They conduct this operation 24/7, 365. 300 soldiers defending approximately 300+ million Americans. They operate in very austere environments. Fort Greely, where this time of the year it's 40 degrees below zero normally. They also have a small contingent that's located at Vandenberg Air Force Base. They also this brigade also supports all the TPY-2 radars that we have that are located throughout the world, 4, soon to be 5. I don't know if you had a chance to see the recent Fox Files clip. I think it was last Sunday that was aired. And again, it kind of highlights the important role that these men and women execute. I also like to highlight the fact that this battalion that's up in Alaska is a National Guard full-time battalion. They're extremely competent, and they're extremely proud of what they do up there. And I could not be more proud of them, quite frankly. Joint Tactical Ground Stations. We have them all over the world, providing commanders with critical early warning information regarding ballistic missile attack. Our Future Warfare Center provides the training for our sensor managers for all services that are involved in missile defense. We work closely with industry to help develop the high-energy laser mobile demonstrator that you saw in the video, which has been successful in destroying mortars, UAVs, and other assets. The Advanced Hypersonic Weapon offers extremely critical strategic effects in terms of anti-access and anti-denial environments. And quite frankly, SMDC is the only organization that has successfully tested this technology. Currently, on any given day, the command has more than 1,000 soldiers that are forward-based, forward-deployed, supporting missile and space operations. We also serve as the Army's force modernization proponent for space, high altitude, and global missile defense. We also conduct institutional training and leader development, conduct over 200 formal courses every year, 7,000 students last year. When you turn to research and development, in addition to the high-energy laser mobile demonstrator that was on the film, as well as the advanced hypersonic weapon, we're also very excited about nano satellite technology to support the warfighters' communications and ISR requirements, basically providing timely and responsive information dominance down to the lowest level, down to the brigade and battalion level. Have already launched 2 of these small satellites, communication satellites. They weigh around 4 kilograms. We're also working on an ISR program that is known as Kestrel-I. It produces 1.5 meter imagery and is also downlinked to the warfighter, again being responsive to his requests or her requests. I'd also like to highlight the importance of the Reagan Test Site in Kwajalein, the Marshall Islands. It's a major range and test facility that supports all forms of ballistic missile, all the way from ICBMs all the way down. Basically, when you look at the command, we provide kind of one-stop shopping when it comes to space and missile defense, from executing current operations to developing future capabilities, while also conducting leading-edge technologies. In conclusion, current and emerging space and missile defense threats are challenging our freedom of action and our assured access to the global commons. From high-energy lasers to direct ascent anti-satellites, to the use of cyberspace, to mirroring our efforts in research and development. 13 years of conflict have really kind of reinforced some of the old adages. Retaining superiority requires effective use of resources, and space and missile defense capabilities are required, are necessary for freedom of action. I'll save my, my comments regarding how I could really use your help in terms of technology for the panel, because I'd like to get the folks up here and give you all a chance to ask as many questions as you would like to have. But the bottom line, we're committed. We're committed to partnering with you to provide the space and missile defense capabilities to support the warfighter, our Army, and our nation. Secure the high ground. Thank you. Please elaborate on initiatives to build partner capacity and maintain forward presence and their benefits. I mentioned a little bit about some of the exercises that we participate in. Nimble Titan, which I do on behalf of a Strategic Command, and that's a 2-year exercise where we bring together NATO and a lot of the other partners out there. The current iteration, I think we have between 22 and 24 nations that participate in that. And this is kind of high-level discussions. We use simulations to kind of drive the discussion. But what it really helps us do is to kind of demystify and to share the importance of sharing data, whether it's sensor data, foreign disclosure issues that are out there. So that's one aspect. I will also tell you that in the COCOMs, whether it's CENTCOM, AOR, or the PACOM AOR, we do a lot of exercises where we bring in the partner nations. I'm most familiar with the Central Command exercises, the air missile defense exercises that we do with nations from Kuwait, Qatar, Bahrain, UAE, Saudi Arabia. They participate in these AMDEXs. And again, we use scenarios to help drive the discussion, but really what it is to show the goodness of collaborating together more than just bilateral agreements with the U.S., how crosstalk between nations in the Middle East is good for everybody. And so that's just two of the examples that we have out there. Quite frankly, air and missile defense forces have been involved in the development of relationships with our allies for many, many years, from these kind of exercises, from Patriot, from Hawk, and all the other systems that we have out there. So it's kind of breaking down barriers, one barrier at a time, but we're making steady progress. And the big thing that we're really focused on is working those foreign disclosure policy issues, and that's where OSD and state who participate in these exercises play a valuable role. First one, when will we operationalize laser weapon systems fielded to our tactical warfighter formations? We are currently involved in a lot of tests right now with the high energy laser, and a lot of it has to that we're really focused on, and there's a lot of companies that are helping us with this. Frankly, Dave Mann's perspective, I think it's a question of when, not if. That's the first point I'd like to make right off the bat. Secondly, it goes to from a cost standpoint, bringing on board these technologies that can be brought on board in a very feasible manner, making sure that they're weaponized, that they're hardened, and that they're sized properly so that we can export them and deploy them in support of operations. And we're getting there. We're also increasing the power thresholds to make sure that we have the necessary power not only to take incoming rounds, close in, but also further out. And so I can't give you a definitive timeline as to when this all coming about, but I can tell you that we're very much involved in that. We just had a test back in December that was very, very promising. So I think it's just a question of when. Obviously, if you look at the fiscal environment right now, not a lot of appetite for big investments, but where you can show where you can have some cost savings, i.e. going with the laser versus an interceptor in terms of counter-rocket artillery mortars or counter-UAS, there's goodness in that. We just have to make sure that we make the business case to support that. Secondly, recognizing that the nation may no longer be able to afford multi-billion-dollar large satellite programs, comment on the utility of small satellites and the small satellite launch vehicles to the warfighter. I feel like that's kind of a plug for my organization, quite frankly. We are extremely excited about this, and we have OSD support regarding some of these joint capability tests that we're doing right now with the nano satellites. These are, like I said, very, very small satellites, 4 kilograms, low Earth orbit, that because they are low Earth orbit, more responsive, less cost because you don't have to send them up into a higher orbit. And so I think we're going to see more and more. I know that OSD is excited about some of the technologies and what we've been able to show, not only from a communication standpoint, but also from an ISR standpoint. We're also working on a lot of technologies that will allow us to get these objects, these assets, into space in a low-cost type environment. I mean, we're trying to do it as cost effectively as possible, and some of the initial technologies we're able to get something into space for less than $1 million, which seems like a lot of money, but let me tell you that's cheap when you talk about commercial applications and putting them into space. So what we're trying to do is, again, show the goodness, continue to seek advocacy not only across the Army but throughout OSD to make sure that we get the necessary funding and resources to take this, again, to a higher level. I just think that this has amazing promises for the warfighter, especially in terms of putting something up in a timely, responsive manner down to the individual warfighter, utilizing a handheld device for them to be able to track where they're at on the battlefield, especially in austere environments where you might not have the necessary infrastructure to provide that support. Okay, and I think, last one here. In an era of fiscal challenges, what is your biggest resource challenge? Oh boy. I was going to kind of save this to the panel discussion. What I was going to kind of submit to you for consideration, space and missile defense. From a space standpoint, we're putting wideband global satellites into orbit right now to replace the old Discus constellation that we have up there. But the structure that I have is the same, and quite frankly, it's inadequate to take care of the legacy systems, at the same time take care of a new constellation of satellites that, quite frankly, gives us a tenfold increase in capability. So one of the resources from a manning standpoint that I'm really working hard with the Department of the Army on is to make sure that we have the necessary resources, especially in this day and age as we're downsizing, to address that capability, and to also make sure that we meet JROC timelines in terms of being able to utilize the constellations up there to address some of the increased capabilities that we're going to have on orbit. That's one thing. From a missile defense standpoint, I talked about the mid-course defense that we have, the GBIs that we have up at Fort Greely as well as at Vandenberg. They provide a limited capability. And I think what we're looking at is, what is after the GBIs? Well, what's the leap ahead technology that we should be looking at? You know, we've had different versions of the GBIs, and we're working very, very closely with MDA to make sure that we instill confidence in the warfighter regarding that limited capability that we have up there. But that's one thing that we're looking at. Is it a common exo-atmospheric kill vehicle? Is it some other technology out there? Secondly, we have to look, and quite frankly, where I think we get the biggest bang for our buck is in terms of our sensors. And I know that Admiral Searing and I share the same view that in terms of the biggest bang for the buck, improving your sensor capabilities, your ability to discriminate and find the target complex is what is key. Just putting more missiles in your quiver is not really going to, it's going to increase the capacity, but not necessarily the capability. And if you look at the number of threat inventories out there, we're never going to have enough interceptors in our quiver to take care of all those threat ballistic missiles that are out there. So to me, it makes sense that we focus on those things that will allow us to efficiently use the resources that we have while looking at leap-ahead technologies. And also, this will help us get after the shot doctrine in terms of how many interceptors do we have to send up to be able to take out a threat complex. So I think that's an area that really deserves a lot of hard thought, that censor and discrimination. So those are just a couple things right off the top of my head that I could really use some help.